gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Woo-hoo.
All right, welcome everyone to another edition of our Data Talent Showcase. We know it's not enough for you to walk it. You got to talk that talk, okay? And that's what tonight's skill competition is about. It's a skills competition where we will have 3 contestants that will present their projects, and then their goal is to tell us a story, get us excited about their data, and then give us some facts on the data and tell us what we should do next. And we have 3 guest judges tonight who are going to be giving feedback throughout this time. Like I said, we got a great one for you guys. With that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing started. I hope you guys are excited. We got 3 excellent presentations to share with you this evening. But first, let us introduce our judges. First up, we have Minu, who has been here before. I believe this is her second time, and we are happy to have you back. Minu, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, happy to be back here, Ali. You never cease to amaze me. The energy you bring to it is like infectious. So I'm Meenu Agarwal. I'm currently at RTI. I've been with RTI about 22 months, but I am a 25 plus years veteran in the data and analytics space. It's a passion of mine. I am very focused on lifelong learning. So this kind of program is very energizing to me. And that's why I'm here the second time to be able to support you guys. So I look forward to this evening. I'm excited. The last time I was sick. So hopefully this time you guys can hear me loud and clear. Excited to hear what you guys have to show.
Awesome, fantastic. We have a Colaberry alum that is joining us to be a host. He graduated several years ago and has actually brought a lot of people to this program. Elvis, you there?
Absolutely. I've really grown to become a senior BI engineer. And you know, Colaberry has been a game changer for me. It's touched so many lives. You know, not including my own, so to speak, and so many other people that I've also helped in the process. It's like I talk about Colaberry in my interviews. I talk about it because this is a product of, you know, the knowledge that came all the way from Harvard, the way it was, you know, started. And so I don't take that lightly, and it's changed so many lives. I'm here as a testimony to what, you know, when you have the dedication and resolve to get things done and to change the way you live and prepare or make a better future for yourself. I'm definitely a beneficiary of this. So I'm forever grateful for Ali, you know, the rest of the staff at Colaberry for pushing me and for also giving back the same way they're doing right now. So I'm happy to be here.
All right, fantastic. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we are having a little bit of connection issues with our other judge. So we're gonna move on to our contestants and introduce our contestants. First up, I have Isra. Isra, what are you gonna be presenting for us this evening?
Well, this evening I'll be presenting the ASD, or autism prevalence in the US between the year 2000 to 2020. That includes 50 states plus Washington, D.C.
All right, fantastic. Sounds good. All right, Natalia, what are you going to be presenting for us this evening?
Hi, Ali and judges and everyone. Today, I'm going to present heart disease and stroke prevention in US in the year 2004 to 2013.
All right, sounds good. And I know our third contestant is having some issues as well, but coincidentally, they're going to be presenting New York Cafe as well. So that should definitely be interesting. Okay. All right, we have everything in order. So let's get ready to go. But we know that presenting in front of people can be a little nerve-wracking, so we're gonna lighten it up with a little bit of music. So I'm gonna play some music for about 30 seconds. And then Israel, once I finish, then you can start sharing your screen and get on with your presentation.
Shine bright like a diamond. Find light in the beautiful sea. I chose to be happy.
My name is Ezra Musamba. We are a developer. This project is about the prevalence of autism in the United States. 15 years ago, my son's autism diagnosis changed our life. Since then, we have embarked on a remarkable journey alongside other families with a similar situation. Autism spectrum disorder, or other ASD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder impacting communication, social interaction, and other problems. The cause is never determined. It's like no one knows really exactly what is the main cause. However, environmental factors are believed to be one. The prevalence of autism spectrum disorder has shown a continuous increase in the United States, as you can see in the graph. In the year 1970, it was 1 to 10,000 children. And the year 2021, it's 1 to 44 children. So I wanted to gain a deep understanding of the data with visual journey from 2000 until 2020 using Power BI. So I conducted this study to visually explore and understand the prevalence of ASD, uncover an insight and get estimate on the number of families in that kind of condition, the same journey that I am in. The study was done using available data source from National Center for Health Statistics, the US Census Bureau, the Autism and Development Monitoring Network, ADDM. The report will compare the estimate of prevalence of ASD with the population and gender information that can help me understand, get better understanding, and compare with population changes. Gathering the project data was challenging, as it required compiling information of population by state, gender, autism prevalence, and more from multiple sources. I extracted and consolidated the data into a comprehensive Excel spreadsheet, creating the data set for the Master ASD project. To ensure consistency and accuracy of the dashboard, I created a data dictionary and established a connection between the master data and the table and the calendar table, facilitating a deeper understanding of the data and its relationship. Using DAX, I developed 4 key performance indicators, KPIs, for ASD population, total population, ASD population year-over-year percent, and total population year-over-year percent. Furthermore, I included 3 sub-KPIs that showcased estimate male and female population with ASD, along with the percentage of total ASD in relation to the overall population. The dashboard I created included a year slider, 4 KPIs, 3 sub-KPIs, and 2 arrows indicating positive and negative trends. I also had a year stacked column chart, a stacked column chart with region drilled down to state, a scattered chart by location, as well as a US map by state. Project challenge, stated earlier, include combining data from multiple sources, also creating DAX formulas, and thirdly, ensuring the project was visually appealing with appropriate color selection. Some of the finding, positive insight in the year 2020, the year-over-year ASD prevalence in Washington, DC. As you could see, there was a drop of 1.22%, meaning that reduction compared to the previous year. It's important to note that the reduction in ASD prevalence is likely attributed to the year-over-year increase for the total population at the same time, which was 5.28. This decrease in population could be linked to the onset of COVID-19, as people may have relocated from DC, impacting both the total population and the ASD population reduction. Negative insight occurred in the state of New Jersey, year 2020. ASD year over year had a massive increase of 8.75. Note that population increased by 4.28 for that duration of time. In 2008, ASD population in South Dakota experienced a significant increase of 7.57 compared to the previous year, while the overall population only grew to 0.95%. This notable surge of ASD cases could be attributed to increase in awareness or update in diagnostic criteria during that period. The study revealed that autism spectrum disorder ASD prevalence is significant reality and exceeds the overall population. In the year 2000, the total population in the US was 279 million. ASD population was 1.59 million. In 2020, population was 328 million, and the ASD population was 2.4 million. In the 20-year span, the total population increased by 17.6%, while ASD population increased by a rate of 52.9%. This comparison shows that ASD population is growing at a rate of 300% compared to the total population increase, which is very concerning. Some highlights of the data show that consistent increase in ASD prevalence, with the highest increase in 2008 due to change in diagnostic criteria. This increase is not consistent across every state, and there is a need to standardize approach to improve accurate diagnosis and prevalence for information. The data also shows a higher prevalence of ASD in male compared to female at a rate of 4:1. Increasing funding for research, early detection, intervention, and support service, which promotes inclusive education, community engagement, and collaboration among stakeholders would be a good actionable item that can help. The economic factor due to rising cost of therapy service need to be addressed as well. Overall, a multifaceted approach is suggested to address the issue. Promoting community autism support can help smooth the journey for the ones traveling in it. Our journey continues. From this study, I learned we are not alone. As of 2020, my son is part of the 2.4 million population with ASD, and that there are millions of families with similar challenges, that journey that I'm traveling in. I will continue to accept, adapt, and advocate for my son and families with ASD. Hope you join me and other ASD support team in your area to do the same. Thank you. If you need further detail, I can have this study accessible to you.
All right, everybody take your cells off of mute and give them a woo woo. All right, Minu, can you give us some feedback?
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Ezra, for your presentation. The presentation manner and the storytelling was just out of this world. You were extremely calm throughout. And I know Ali mentioned it can sometimes be trepidatious when you're presenting to so many people, but your demeanor and the content, I think, exceptional storytelling. You did an amazing job with the geospatial maps and with the interactivity, and you actually were filtering things based on a particular country, and the side-by-side show of 2020 data to 2022 and how things have changed was amazing. I really loved the presentation. There are two considerations or further points of exploration I would leave you with. You mentioned there was concerns around data and being able to cross-map them. The CDC data was 8-year-old based on a study done for 8-year-olds. Be interested in learning, how did you combine the data set? If you could elaborate on that for me, please.
Correct, because some of the 8-year-olds, the data on the prevalence was based on 8-year-old kids. So I had to kind of create a relationship into, like I was trying to figure out when were those kids born, basically. So I was trying to trace back time-wise, and then try to distribute them per area also. So that's why it was kind of a little bit tricky. It took me some time, and I had to go back and forth with Ali a few times when building it, because I basically had to create a lot of relationship between different sources that I had. It was very tricky. And then I also had to use a lot of ETL for the Excel, literally, to create a graph that makes better sense.
Yeah, that's where you learn the most, right? So, and you could tell
Yes.
that you've been able to grasp the data very well. A point of consideration or a question to you is, when you said in one of the states, as it progressed, there was a dip in ASD. So did you rule out data quality concerns, like there were no gaps in data, because you attributed the reason to COVID, but I'm assuming you did your due diligence and ruled out data discrepancies?
Yeah, yes, I did. Very good question. In fact, that's an excellent question, because initially I thought that was like a positive thing, because what I was looking for was the year-over-year prevalence in ASD. So anything that is green on the market, that's a good thing. Well, then I said, well, shall we just celebrate just Washington, D.C. had a drop of 1.22% in ASD population. And then I said, no, let me drill through and find out what was happening in Washington, D.C. at that duration of time, because I had other sources of data I was analyzing. That was the total population of Washington, D.C. So I kind of wondered, why was a massive drop of population of 5.4% or 5.45% in Washington, D.C. at that duration of time? So then I did that. There was a massive drop of population. And then I went and realized, oops, it's the year 2020. There were many people who work in DC that relocated. So you could also track other data that exist. So that's why in my analysis, I was saying the drop in Washington, DC is there is no solution to autism, meaning the autism prevalence, there's no medicine or anything like that. So there were movements of people. That's why even if you look at New Jersey at the same duration of time, the total population of New Jersey increased by 4.54 for that duration of time. So you could more or less guess that some people from Washington, D.C. may have moved to New Jersey or other locations. So the people movements, the population movements, and stuff like that. But the overall picture, regardless where people moved, the overall ASD population is growing tremendously. And when we compare the population increase, the 20-year span versus the ASD increase, well, we have 300% more the ASD number. That's very concerning.
Yeah, And thanks to you, I'm walking away with the new learning that ASD is more prevalent, 4 times more prevalent in boys than in girls. So I learned something
Yeah,
today.
that's
So
true.
thank you. I'll turn it over to you, Ali.
All right, awesome. Excellent feedback. All right, Elvis.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ezra, I thought you did great. I love your posture. Your body language was great. A little bit of from the beginning there, no need to give so many apologies. Just one is enough if you are doing this in a real interview, because it's okay, you know. But just giving the real feedback. But great, great presentation, great presentation for sure. And also in terms of the master of the knowledge of this data, you sounded like an expert. I felt like I was in a real you know, government-based study that you're presenting to. Really great. One thing I saw in the visuals, I would create a little bit of a balance in the symmetry of the alignments of the visuals overall. But you know, especially, you know, the filters on the left side could be a little bit smaller. They don't have to be pretty big. And then I saw a lot of bar charts, and I didn't see a lot of other visualizations. It would have been nice to include a kind of a diversity of visualizations to kind of visualize the same data maybe a different way. For example, maybe duplicating a given page and then and demoing it in a different way, just to show, hey, you know, if the end users, you know, like to see it in a different way, you can still visualize the same information using different visuals. But overall, it was really great. There was a table that you had in one of the visuals on the top left corner. It was really kind of hard to read anything out of it. So maybe if you could create its maybe its own page of the detail report, or it just unless you could click on it and get further into, you know, maybe pop it out. Of course, you can demo that. You can demo to us and tell us, hey, on this visual, I know the data looks a little bit small, but if you click here, you know, you can demo, you can make it, you can pop it out and be able to see a little bit more legible stuff. And then, you know, the question I have is, I also love the way you made the assumption of why the population was actually decreased. So, you know, based on what you said, it made sense. It did make sense, but I think as Mino asked and confirmed that did you do some checks to make sure that it was really, you know, a smart assumption? I thought you already answered Mino on that one, so that's what I would have asked. Now, the last question I have for you is, what do you know, how accurate is your source, your data source? Yeah, how accurate do you think it is?
Well, the data source is accurate, but it's missing data, not because there was no data available. It's like what I say.
Mhm.
Every state seems to be having their own way of measuring.
Reporting this. Okay.
Reporting. So the autism prevalence is not consistent across the state. I mean, it's unbelievable. In fact, some are through income. I mean, certain states that have higher income seem to have better consistency because they have a standard set up to put kids in the spectrum, and they report it accurately. In other states, they don't. So when they report it late. Suddenly you see a massive hike of ASD. So this needs to be worked out. So then that way we have a very consistent, I think, and maybe I could be mistaken, but I think we are missing numbers of families with ASD, or children with ASD that are not being reported.
All right. And, you know, also not to forget to say that I am, you know, rooting for your family. I know it takes a lot to take care of a child that is autistic. More power to you and prayers. the other question I have is there a way you could have incorporated, income with, like income, kind of something that has to do income related cases or race? Is there as factors?
No,
No?
there is no race information. However,
Okay.
income could be generated from the states,
Right.
or you can create race from the states if the distribution is like if it's linear
Right.
distribution, yeah, we can create that kind of thing. But income is key because awareness, education, income, those are key information. So this is just the first chapter of the story.
Yeah, right.
The more tools, the more tricks I learned from Ali and the Colaberry team, I know we can write more books on this.
Absolutely, Ezra. I love your confidence. Is great. I think you did great. Keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome job. Thank you, Elvis. Okay, we're moving on to Nadia.
I'm this town tonight.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Nitya. I am an ETL developer. Today I'm going to present my data warehouse project about heart disease and stroke prevention in US. When coming to our health, heart is very important for our life. So heart is a symphony and rhythm of our life and a vital organ of our life. Nowadays, I am hearing so many people are affected with heart diseases. So heart disease is the leading cause for the death for men, women, and people with most racial and ethnic groups in the United States. So that's the reason I choose this data from CDC. This data covers the Medicare and Medicaid patients of various categories and years. And it gives this data provides a comprehensive picture of public health burden of cardiovascular diseases such as heart attack, stroke, heart diseases like myocardial infarction. This data is organized by locations and indicators like age, gender, race, and ethnicity. The KPIs are hospitalization rate by year over year, hospitalization rate by race by year over year, number of patients affected by state year over year, and average of high confidence limit by state over year. Here you're seeing the mapping document. It is essential for every ETL developer. It contains the source, target, and business rules information about the source data and the target database. Sorry. Here you're seeing the fully functioning data warehouse. It starts from source. The source is a CSV file here. It converted into the JSON file. The JSON file is extracted into the staging layer. After the staging layer, the data is loaded into the ODS layer. Some transformations are performed here. So the ODS layer is nothing but it's a real-time or near real-time data for operational reporting purposes. And finally, the data is loaded into the data warehouse for the reporting purposes and data-driven decisions for the business. Now, you are seeing the creations of the database. The first I created the database is heartstroke staging, heartstroke ODS, heartstroke data warehouse. After creating the database, I load the data into the staging layer by using the script component as source here. By loading the JSON data in the staging layer, we need to follow some steps to load the JSON data. First, we have to add system.web.extension as reference to read the JSON data and use JSON serializer. We have to create a class in the C#. This class will help the structure, read the structure and the properties as the JSON elements have. After here, the packages got executed and the data is loaded in the table successfully. Next is the MIDI layer. Here you're seeing the 5 dictionary tables and the heartstroke ODS layer, ODS table. And by using the transformations, lookup transformations, direct column transformations, and OLDB command, I loaded the data into the ODS tables and in the database. And finally, after some transformations are performed into the ODS layer, so finally the data is loaded in the data warehouse by using the merge statement, by implementing the store procedure, the data by using the two execute SQL task, one for the dimension table and one for the fact table. The data is loaded into the data warehouse successfully. The data is loaded here, the dimension table is loaded successfully, and the fact tables loaded successfully here. Here it representing the data model of the data warehouse. It contains 2 fact tables and 5 dimension tables, and it represents the star schemas here. From the analysis, one of the positive insight, the hospitalization rate by year over year got decreased. In the year 2004, the hospitalization rate is 1.49, and year over year it got decreased. And in the 2013, the lowest rate is 1.32. So it represents the good insights here. And one of the negative insights, it is irregular over year for the non-Hispanic Black people. Due to the fluctuation in the data, due to not inconsistent in the data, it is not making predictions for the period 2004 to 2013. From this analysis, I recommended some suggestions According to the data, the hospitalization rate for the non-Hispanic Black people is high. So encourage them to schedule the regular checkups with their healthcare providers, to monitor the blood pressures and cholesterol levels and overall cardiovascular health. So early detections and intervention can significantly reduce the heart diseases and heart attacks over the year. For the patients who are age above 75, they encourage them to, it is also important to consult with the doctor to follow the medication managements and follow the prescribed medications strictly, including any blood thinners, cholesterol lowering drugs, or blood pressure medication. So take them as directed and discuss any concern with their side effects to their healthcare provider. So from this data, the heart disease is more than 50% among the state in the Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So we need to increase an awareness about heart diseases within this community. This can be done through outreach programs and partnership with local organizations and educational campaigns tailored specifically to this population at this level. So state government also, State Health Department can further develop to the stroke care through the Quality Improvement Initiative and partnership to coordinate statewide stroke policies. If the person isn't breathing well, we have to perform find a CPR and we have to CPR to keep the blood flowing, and after you have to call 911. These are the recommendations I suggested here. Thank you.
All right, everybody take yourselves off of mute and give her a woo, 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 woo. All right, Elvis, what's your feedback?
All right, Nithya, great job. I thought it was really easy to follow and understand. You sounded like a really subject. If I had to pick your strengths, it looks like ETL is pretty good. With the SSIs and creating the data warehouse. I thought you really shined the spotlight there, which was great. When it comes to the presentation, I thought it was good, but at some point I felt like you were reading a lot, and you would forget a word and then you try to read it again, or you would misread something. So it kind of gave me a signal that you're reading. I could be wrong, but if you were, I would walk a little bit of maybe like writing down some keywords that can help you. I mean, like talking points that can help you to not appear that you're reading. The other thing I would say is the body language. You look very positive, but I would like a little bit of movement so that I can know that my camera is actually not frozen. But so just kind of move a bit and show a little bit of the smiles along the way where there need be. But I thought everything was really really well. The only other thing is that when you're talking about the race, it would have been nice to see some kind of maybe I missed it, but is there a visual that would show this data as in regards to the cases in regards to race, age, and maybe income disparities between people in different populations? I don't know if you are able to get that data. It would be nice to see whether that has anything to do it. But you also mentioned that there was some inconsistency of data between non-Hispanic Black. Do you know what the cause of that is? Is it because they are not going to the doctors as much, or is it, what do you think is the cause of that data inconsistency that you're talking about?
The inconsistency is about the outreach programs, because they are not concerning about their health, because they need to get more awareness about the low cholesterol lowering risk. The cholesterol is the main cause for the heart attack. Or so this is the reason they need to focus on these people. We need to outreach their programs to campaigns, some things, educations. So we have to, this is the suggestions I given here. Due to the inconsistency, this is the inconsistency here.
All right. What about income? Was there any way that you could incorporate income? Does it have anything to do with that? Or the data didn't have it?
Sorry, I didn't
like household income.
the income here.
Yeah.
Only I encourage race, ethnicity, and gender. Only I include this only. I didn't include the income.
Oh, okay. Did you exclude it? Was it in their data and then you just exclude it, or was it not there at all?
It's not there.
Okay, I understand. Great job so far. Thank you so much. Keep it up. And thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Nina.
Thanks, Sunny. Thanks, Elvis. Yeah, as I agree with everything Elvis had, great presentation. I also agree on the point where you felt like reading a lot. And so from an engagement standpoint, it takes away the recommendation of talking points is a great one. And one thing I have noticed, a tip I will give you is, I do a lot of presentations. I put my talking points right underneath my camera. So even though I'm actually reading, nobody can tell because it's right underneath and I'm looking straight at the camera then. So just a tip for you to take away as you further and do some presentations. A few things I noticed, and I'll ask a certain question. Overall, the flow was really good. The ETL, how you walked us through the creation of the database to how the SSIS packages was working and the different layers and how the data moved and the merge functions. I thought it told a very good story. I do want to I have questions around what made you decide, like you had the data in CSV format, you converted it to JSON format before you loaded into the warehouse. What made you convert to JSON format?
Yeah, the CSV file with the it is not easy to convert into object. By using the JSON, it is converted into object. So it is easy to it has a vast library, so we can read it wherever we need by using convert the JSON into object. So easy to read the data in wherever you need, and it has the JSON contains a vast library. So that's the reason, and it is one of the requirements in the business. So converted into the JSON here.
Got it. So you are using the data lake architecture, like lakehouse architecture. So you first loaded into a data lake and then went to the warehouse. The other question I had is like, why did you select 3 layers? You were doing transformation in one, but you had 3 hops of the data. Help me understand the rationalization behind that.
So the staging layer, just I didn't transform any transformation is there. Just I dumped the raw data into the staging layer. In the ODS layer, it is the real time. This is the monthly data just loaded there for the business purposes, for monthly business analytical purposes. So I created the ODS layer for particular for business reporting sales, anything product, how much it's sold. So I created the ODS layer here. So data warehouse is the completely historical data. I completely dump the data there in the future historical purposes and data-driven decision for business.
So your ODS layer is your transformation layer where you are putting
Yeah.
the logic, but it doesn't have the archive of the history. It's your warehouse that has the archive.
Just no.
And then the final point, like question I have is like predictions. You mentioned the predictions I'm making, and I felt it was a very descriptive analytics because you have the data and you were gaining insights from the data. So was there any prediction modeling that was done? Did you leverage any AI models to predict any of the insights you presented? Got it. Okay, this was amazing. I love the flow and I love the visuals. As Alvis mentioned, I think some correlation to the insights you provided, how did you arrive at them, would have been good. And on the reading, do try and see if it works for you. And sometimes I do dry runs. I just launch Zoom and I do talk that I'm going to give, and it just helps me because I've done a dry run. So some points for consideration.
All right, excellent feedback.
Absolutely.
All right, next up we have Jonathan, who was not here earlier. So Jonathan, what are you going to be presenting for us?
I'll be presenting the New York City Sidewalk Cafe project today.
All right, New York City Sidewalk Cafe coming up in 30 seconds.
All of the lights.
So hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Berryman. I'm an ETL developer, and this is the New York City Sidewalk Cafe project and the data warehouse. Let's begin. So what is a New York City Sidewalk Cafe? A sidewalk cafe in New York is basically a cafe that's situated between two businesses on the left or right, or possibly even apartment complexes above them. So in the city of New York, it's a very high population, and there's a large population density in a very small area. And because of that, the cost of living and honestly the cost of square footage that's available is very, very, very expensive. So for small cafes like the one you see in this image here, it's very difficult for a small business like this to be able to expand on the existing property that they have. Why? Because you can see there's buildings and apartments on the left, right, and above it. They won't be able to expand that way. And to be able to move to a larger unit is going to also cost a lot more money. And it's not a very viable solution for businesses to try to expand on their existing unit in a very high population dense city like New York. And to be able to accommodate that, what happened was these small businesses and the city of New York began to work together on being able to use the existing sidewalk space as part of the business to allow different customers and clients to be able to come in and enjoy the goods and services that these cafes have to offer. In this image, you can even see people just standing outside and using makeshift seating just to be able to have a cup of coffee. So when this came to light and people wanted to take more advantage of the sidewalk space, businesses wanted to take more advantage of the sidewalk space to be able to service their customers, it was a great idea, but there was also a lot of regulation that needed to be put into place just so these businesses can be serviced and so that it doesn't affect the regular population of New York, because a lot of New Yorkers use the sidewalk space to get from point A to point B. If you've ever been to New York, nobody likes to drive in the city. Usually it's bus transport or subways and trains. So that being said, these sidewalk cafe expansions onto the sidewalk have to go through multiple different municipalities to get approved. They would have to go through city planning commissions, get approval from the mayor's office, the city council, and even sometimes have to go through hearings to be able to determine if the amount of square footage this business is asking for is appropriate and will not affect pedestrian walkways. So when you really dive deeper into the issue of how populated New York City is, more than 50% of New Yorkers use public transportation to get back and forth. And look at the image and just see there's really no space for a small business to take up the sidewalk and just put a couple seats there so people can have coffee when all these people are trying to just get to work. And without the proper placement, what will occur is these cafes can go ahead and start impeding pedestrian walkways. You can see on the lower image, even the gentleman in the wheelchair is just trying to get across the street, and there's two people blocking him just because of where those the tables and the chairs were situated on that sidewalk. So because of this, a lot of regulation and a lot of approvals needed to be done to be able to expand onto the sidewalk, just to get a permit to be able to expand onto the sidewalk. And as these businesses are asking for the approvals and it's going through all the different stages, you know, they would have to submit construction documents, determine the amount of tables, chairs, how much of the actual sidewalk space they're going to be taking up, and is there still going to be adequate space for pedestrians to be able to pass by, so they can still be able to serve businesses and still serve the public. Now, from everything I've said so far, it just sounds like a very lengthy process, yes? And that's exactly what the city of New York noticed. So if you look at this article from the Wall Street Journal, it became such a pain to get a single permit just to be able to put a couple chairs on that even the Wall Street Journal had to put an article out on how lengthy and costly the process was. So with this being an issue for the different municipalities, we were trying to find a solution for them to be able to kind of understand how they can best service these businesses so they can go ahead and get these permits in a non-lengthy and a more cost-effective way. And that way, the public will be able to still use the sidewalks and they'll be able to serve the public with their goods and services. So what we came up with is an ETL solution, to be able to take the data from these applications and that businesses are submitting, taking that application and putting it in through an ETL process, giving them an operational database to work on day-to-day stuff, right? To keep track of everything that's happening during day-to-day business transactions, and then also archive everything to be able to do analysis on it in a data warehouse, and for further insights to be able to use that data warehouse for predictions and reporting and other types of informative decision making. So some of the key performance indicators that we noticed that they needed were in a few factors and in a few different criteria. So the biggest issue being the time it takes for these permits to get approved. Everything revolved around time. So it would be one of the KPIs, for example, would be just understanding what the average time of permit issuance is, to be able to understand, is this permit taking longer than it should take compared to last year or the past 3 months. The average time of issuance and how it relates to hearings. How are hearings affecting the process of getting these permits approved? And the other final two are the impact of square footage on the amount of time it takes for applications to get approved. And lastly, understanding the minimum and the maximum times of issuance to be able to find applications which could be outliers, to understand and use them for different types of guidelines, so that the city municipalities can provide guidelines for these small businesses that they can follow to get their applications approved faster. So it won't be such a lengthy process. So to begin this, we started with the extraction portion, got the data from New York City OpenData.com in the form of a JSON file. I went ahead and used the OpenRowSet script to go ahead and to view the data in the JSON file inside of SQL. Once I was able to view it there, I went ahead and I needed to put it in the staging area so I can really just have the information there and take a look at it and understand the different types of columns and data types I was working with. So I created a staging database, took the information from the JSON, put it into the staging database table, and took my time to do some preliminary data profiling just to understand what kind of data I was working with. And once I understood the type of data and data types that I was working with, I went ahead and started to try to group things together and a solid business logic that made sense. So what I did is I went ahead and I created an ODS for their operational day-to-day work, and I grouped everything into different types of municipalities for information and different types of steps and permits and hearings related to all the different municipalities. I separated them by hearings, things that would go to the mayor's office, and then a general table for applications and things. So what I did then is I took the information from my staging database, right? And before I put it into the ODS for operational use, I went ahead and did some transformations like removing duplicates and creating some business logic for for some of the columns. For example, like for application ID of some mandatory column and a record that needs to be in every single row. Otherwise, you won't be able to identify it. So, made sure that that business logic was in place before it got into the ODS. And once everything was in the ODS and was able to be loaded correctly, and now that I had all this clean data inside of the ODS, I was able to go ahead and start thinking about archiving it and moving it into a data warehouse. So for the final stage of loading it, I loaded everything into different dimension and fact tables with similar business logic. And most of the facts related to these applications were in the terms of dates and square footage. So the fact tables were fact date and fact square footage. The rest of them were very descriptive data. So kept those as the dimension tables. Individually loaded each one of these tables from the ODS database. And then went ahead and for the fact tables, I had to combine all the information from different ODS tables. So I used multiple lookups to go ahead and bring all the data into the fact tables. And in this case, I used the lookup because it wasn't very costly to use a lookup versus a merge transformation because it wasn't that many records. And over time, it wouldn't slow down. It wouldn't be very costly on performance. So I was able to just do it using lookup transformation. Next. Data modeling, just making sure that we had the right relationships between the tables to make sure that for querying purposes that, we can query the database much faster to get the information that we need. And then finally, from the information that I was able to get and put into the data warehouse, I was able to, look into these KPIs and understand how some of these KPIs affected the business. For example, in the case of hearings. So we were able to find out that the more applications that were being waived, the faster they were getting their permits approved, which made sense and very logical. What was interesting was that the amount of permits that were getting waived and how many were getting waived throughout the years. For example, it wasn't until 2017 and 2019 that the number of applications that were being waived, it had increased drastically, 6,800%, 6,850%. And then again, the applications started to go, it decreased, but there was more applications in 2019 where it only, after almost a 7,000% jump, it only went up to 200% increase in 2019. And if you look at the screenshot at the top right, you'll be able to see that the time of completion started to go down year after year from 2017 down to 2019. So these applications skipping or being waived from the hearing process did drastically improve how quickly these permits got approved. So what the municipalities would do would use that as a guideline to create guidelines for these businesses to follow in ways so that these businesses understand how to structure their applications to be able to get waived from the hearing process. Another thing that I was able to find was from the minimum and the max times of issuance, I was able to see there were some amazing, or you can almost say crazy outliers, right? So between 2018 and 2020, there was about 90 applications that were able to be processed the same day. So that could be a red flag, or it could just also be a great insight. The municipalities can go ahead, review these applications and see what were the factors that were able to get these applications approved so quickly and create guidelines for these businesses. Finally, was looking into how square footage affected it. So specifically, if we took 2018, there's two businesses, Madison Eats LLC and then the Hudson LLC. And Hudson LLC is a larger cafe, and they requested for 1,300 square footage and a larger number of tables and chairs compared to Madison. But just because they had a larger number of square footage that they were applying for, the average time of issuance of their permit still took about 190 days versus the average that year was 168. Now, looking at Madison Eats, they only requested about 20 square feet and only had a few tables and chairs, and they were able to get their application processed in only 7 days versus the standard of 168. So more information for municipalities to be able to create these guidelines to inform these businesses on how they should prepare these applications so they can be approved in a timely manner. And that is the New York City Sidewalk Cafe data warehouse that I built. Thank you guys for your time. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
All right, everybody take yourselves off of mute and give them a woo, 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 woo.
Thank you.
All right, Mina, what's your feedback?
Hey, Jonathan, this is good. Like, I love the way you set the context. You started, you had me really engaged, and I wanted to understand how we're going to solve this problem. So I was right there with you, and I was tracking along. So as we're going through, I have to ask you, and this is like Nitya also did this. You created an ODS and you created a data warehouse. So help me understand, what was the rationale behind having both of them?
The difference would be separating operational and archiving, right? So with an ODS, we need to keep day-to-day operational transactions in a database that is not loaded with too much data to keep it from being slow or very costly. We have a lot of different queries going on day-to-day basis, and we can't have, you know, a user on the other end trying to just look up some information and it takes them 15-30 seconds to pull something up just because you know, the query needs to go through all the different records that have been there from 2000 or like, you know, from 1980 or whatever. So keeping everything separate and understanding what records are necessary for the business and keeping those in an operational database and separating those. It's more like long-term thinking and separating that from the data warehouse itself, where we can do archiving and have a lot of historical data to refer back to and learn from. That was the purpose of separating them. So short answer, to be able to keep performance and costly queries, to keep performance going up and costly queries and operations low by not having too many records on operational databases. That's my response.
Got it. So in your analysis, what actionable insights did the City of New York officials get that like they could employ and say, okay, this is how we're going to solve this problem?
Okay, so in this specific case, right, we're dealing with a municipality that takes applications. In other different business models, you can do a lot more prediction and a lot more different things. You have a lot more options, but in this case, it's literally people applying to a city, and the city has to review the application and go ahead and approve it for them. So the actionable item, the only actionable item that they can do, because they have regulations and different things to follow that they have to abide by, is to be able to give out important and informative guidelines to these businesses that they can follow based on insight. So by having the right insight, they could give them the right suggestions to follow. In this case, would be creating guidelines. So it would be, for example, like back when COVID was going on, right? You know, they would have to refer people, you know, the appointment list would be so long that, for coming in to see a doctor, right? That they had to turn people away. Somebody had to look at that information and say, hey, there's too many people coming in. How much of this work can we actually split up and be able to, you know, all these people are coming in, how many people are just coming in for basic things versus actual, you know, emergency and medical issues. So how do we split that up? Can we move some of these patients over to just online Zoom patients meetings? Forgive me for not using the right language right there, but that, you know, online Zoom doctor appointments for them to be able to, you know, ask a quick question like, hey, what's going on here? And keep the traffic that's going into the actual emergency rooms for specific and major issues. So just to be able to create guidelines that people can follow to make the process easier for themselves. That's what the actionable item would be, creating that guideline that these businesses could be able to follow.
Yeah, one recommendation I'd have is making sure one of your KPIs is tracking that so that there is visibility, like breakout by different steps. Is there a specific step that takes longer than others, or what kind of insights could they gain? Another, curious if you ever looked at the data, like, did you see if there is seasonality to the data, in the sense, what I mean by that is, like, do you see it takes longer over the Christmas time or holidays? Like, did you find anything in terms of seasonality in the application process?
In the when when you're asking directly, no, I didn't look at it, and I didn't focus on those specific KPIs. I'm sure I could have. At that time, the main KPIs I was focusing on were for the outcome of creating the guidelines. But that is a great insight on there. And yes, I'm sure there's seasonality. So I could have divided that up by quarters and start to see the applications that were coming in per quarter, and try to see how hearings affected it quarterly basis throughout the year, and really see what type of insight I could have got from that. Thank you for that suggestion. I didn't think of that at the time because I was just focusing on that, what kind of guideline they would create. But yes, that would definitely provide more insight and a lot more information for the municipalities to be able to go off of on how to adjust during certain quarters or during certain seasons. Thank you for that.
I love the way it all flowed. You were very confident, very calm. The material was very well laid out, and the context setting was just fantastic. I was in there with you. I knew the problem statement, and I was like, let's solve this. So great job. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, great advice. Elvis?
I totally agree with Mino. Pretty much everything she has said there. Jonathan, I thought you did great. I thought I'm gonna focus on the great things that you did, and then I'll just focus on the areas of opportunities. It was very easy to follow from the beginning, but I felt like you're more on the business side and the technical side. You stayed a lot longer, like you took a lot of time. So if you were presenting this to the executives, they may not have such a lot of time, so I would try to condense it a little bit on the business side of it, and then focus more on the technical and the application, which you did great, but I thought it was a little bit long. And then when we go to the way you created your ODS and your database, the tables, I love your naming convention. It was so easy to understand how you're creating those packages from the data flow tasks, the way you are naming them, and the way you are loading that data into the ODS and into the data warehouse. So great naming convention there, because it's very intuitive. If I'm looking for a table and I'm your director or your manager, it'll be very easy for me to see what is going where. One thing I didn't understand is maybe a little bit on the frequency of updates of this data. Maybe you would have touched a little bit of that, like how often are you updating this, and is it a flash and fill? Are there some tables that are just truncation and loading? Are there tables that are on incremental load? Of course, on the data warehouse side, we would expect that. But the other thing was I can only see your head, so I don't know if you're wearing a tie or not. So if you're presenting, it'll be nice, your hand gestures go a long way in presenting your overall body language, because I could only pretty much see your head. But if I'm making a decision of the how presentable this person is, can I put them in front of my other executives? It'll be nice to kind of move back a bit on your camera so that we can be able to see a little bit of waist up on your body language and the hand gestures. The other thing that I saw was the technical knowledge was great. I agree with Mino. I didn't really understand the choices that you made between the ODS and the data warehouse, like what led you to choose between another, and also how often is maybe the data source being updated. That would be nice to kind of point those out, and also you know, I mean, as an ETL developer, maybe I would add a little bit of the reporting layer, you know, to make you more marketable. Like maybe throw something out that would
So
show that you
something
can
on
be
Power BI or
right,
something, yeah,
to
to
make it
get
more
some
like end to end.
visual feedback.
Yeah, it'll make more sense because, you know, the executives love reports and you know, throwing something there that kind of summarizes that would make it really even great. But you did awesome.
Thank you, Elvis.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. So next up is we get to vote, guys. So you can stop sharing on it then. We are gonna vote. You vote for your top one, okay? We will vote for the top one. All right, we got 50% in. Put those votes in. All right, our winner, Ezra, but it was close. Look at that. 43%. Ezra is our winner. He will win $100 plus bragging rights. Okay. Jonathan coming in a close second place with 40% of the vote. And then Natalia coming in at third place. All right. So now it's time to see if the judges agree. All right, here are the judges' results. We have Natalia with a 7, okay? Knowledge of material 7.0, presentation 6.5, originality and creativity 7.0, organization 7.0, neatness 7.5. All right, next up we have Jonathan, 8.4. Knowledge of material 9.0, presentation 8.5, originality and creativity 8.0, organization 8.0, neatness 8.5. Now, going back to the poll results, Ezra won 43%, followed by Jonathan at 40%, so it was close. Now, if the judges agree with the audience, then Ezra's score will be slightly higher than this. So let's see. And it is 8.9. Knowledge of material 10. Presentation 9.5. Originality and creativity 9. Organization 8.5. Neatness 7.5. So as you can see, the judges agree with the crowd. And all is aligned. Okay. Natalia, I know I keep on messing your name up.
Yes.
Nithya?
Yes, Ali, I am here.
Okay, so tell us what you did before Colaberry and how was it preparing for this presentation?
Just before joining the Colaberry, I worked as a teacher. And just I hear one of my friend about the Colaberry. So I joined here. I learned a lot about here. And I study. I need to, according to the presentations I work hard for last 2 weeks, I need to improve myself about the presentations, how to in the future, near future, how to I'm going to presenting. The judges' point is very helpful for me to improve myself. So the Colaberry School is very helpful me to learn a lot of things. And thank you, Ali.
All right, awesome. What did you teach?
Mathematics.
What grade?
Oh, it's a 8th grade.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you. And job well done. Jonathan, what did you do before Colaberry and what was it like preparing for this presentation?
So before Colaberry, I was just doing IT help desk, mobile support and stuff. Preparing for this was a lot of repetition. Heard one of the judges recommend dry runs. So dry runs did help a lot, and I used to record myself and rewatch it and just like kind of just go over it on there. Being honest, there's a lot going on recently, so I didn't have that much time to prepare for this one. Hence why I understand Elvis, it was a little lengthy. I was watching my time. I was like, gosh, I'm already at 9 minutes. Oh my God. But I'll do better next time. So usually it's just recording yourself watching it, and that helps you time it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fluff in between that can be cut out. And that's usually what helps on it. Record yourself, watch it, see if you can really understand the message that you're trying to relate to yourself, and then start cutting fluff, and then it usually gets good from there. Big shout out to Ezra. Good stuff today.
Fantastic. Well said. Ezra, what did you do before Colaberry, and what was it like preparing for this presentation?
Well, before Colaberry, other than taking care of my son, I've been working in the industries, the engineering field, actually. But I figured it's better like I get some knowledge, extra knowledge in my head. So a friend of mine led me to Colaberry, and it was definitely worth it because I learned a lot. I'm learning a lot more. It's another tool I can have in my resume. I have a chemical engineering background, and having this information, this data helps. Can analyze a lot of different things.
All right. And what was it like preparing for this presentation?
Well, preparing for this presentation was quite tricky because how do I present it? Who am I trying to tell the story to? So, of course, I made a few blunders every now and then, but then the Colaberry system helped me because there are many great presentations in the system that help guide me to present it and like tell a story. That's what I did.
Awesome, man. Well, good job tonight. And congratulations on your win. All right. So, Minu, final thoughts.
I think this is an amazing program here, Ali. I want to see how I can get engaged more. I'm happy to volunteer, whatever I could do to help support it. It's an amazing journey, and I see the transition folks are having. You're changing lives here. So it's super exciting to see what you guys are doing here. And Elvis is a living example. So I'm super excited about this. And if there is any way I could help you guys volunteer my time or anything else I could do, I'm more than happy. I also started advocating for Colaberry, so I'll continue doing that. Anything else I could do, just holler.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Elvis, final thoughts.
Yes, great presentation. We can see the transformation that is happening. Just besides the SSIS transformations themselves, we can see the transformation that is happening in people's lives. As Mino said, I've referred so many people to Colaberry. I've seen their lives change. They have seen how my life has changed from where I used to be. And it's just a testament of the dedication that the staff has and everybody, at Colaberry to give back to a greater mission of making people be more self-sustainable. And for the candidates that presented tonight, you guys are awesome. You exhibited great confidence. Netia, just because you are third, it doesn't mean that you are last. I think that what cost you a bit was the reading. Don't be discouraged. I want you to be very encouraged. You did really, really well. The percentages that you saw are not by any means a representation of how you performed, but it's just keep it up, keep up the confidence, and that's what's going to take you to the next level. So Ali, thank you for this platform, and the rest of the Colaberry staff. Just keep it up. Let's keep changing lives one at a time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elvis. Judges, we appreciate you for coming out. We know that you could be a million other places right now with your busy schedule, so we appreciate you spending this hour and a half. And I know we went over time, so I'm gonna wrap it up really quick. Thank you guys. Thank you, audience. Same time, same place. Every last Thursday of the month, Data Talent Showcase. We'll see you guys. Actually, it's going to be 1 week earlier last month. Small exception. So we will be doing it not the last Thursday, but the Thursday before the last Thursday. Just next month only. So go ahead and join us. Set it on your calendar. Again, thank you, judges, for coming out. We really appreciate you. Everyone have a wonderful evening and take care.
Thank you.
I got a condo in Manhattan. Baby girl, what's happening? You and your ass invited. So gonna get to clapping. Go pop it for a plan. Pop it for me. Turn around and drop it for a plan.